Bienvenidos todos a esta última jornada de este primer foro metropolitano.
Welcome everybody to this first Metropolitan Forum of Intelligent Cities. A warm welcome to the director of the Metropolitan area, Juan David Palacio, to all the other public workers, to all our guests. We've had majors from the municipality of the Valley of Aburrá, but also we've had international guests today. We are going to have our great closure. Hi, Linda. Well, Juan Camilo, thanks for connecting. For everybody who's connecting to YouTube channel and Facebook, this transmission has taken place for 4 years. Thanks to the technical team of Telemedellín. So everybody can get that signal of this first Metropolitan Forum of Intelligent Cities. Today we have a very interesting topic, Medellín, Valley of Software. So we will have all our guests, and we invite you to participate through our social networks. Tell us, please, what is an intelligent city for you? And Juan, we want to invite everyone to go to the webpage and fill out the form so you will receive your participation certificate if you participated at least for 3 days. Para aquellos que we need to recall that we've had guests from countries that have sustainable development, like Bolivia, India, United States, Salvador, Cambodia, Ecuador, Uruguay, Malaysia, Mexico, Colombia. We held experiences from London and other countries that have shared, for example, Bolivia. Yesterday we heard how this city is advancing in terms of urbanism, but it's still a green city respecting the environment, Santa Cruz de la Sierra. So today we have a long list of guests that will keep sharing with us sustainable development and show us how in their cities are intelligent. So we have guests from South Africa, Japan, again guests from Europe, and also local guests, and that's how we will begin today. So I'm going to invite our first guest today during this last day, Diego Romero from Medellín, who works in a foundation that is a think tank for the entrepreneurs, for the society, our country. So he is the director of Pro Medellín. Diego, welcome. Thank you. Good morning. Thanks to the Metropolitan area for inviting me to this first Metropolitan Forum of Intelligent Cities. I'm Diego Romero, CEO of Pro Medellín, which is a union of the entrepreneurs that work so Medellín goes well. What does it mean that Medellín goes well? We have to reduce poverty, inequalities, increase jobs, and work for Medellín to work for the sustainable development of Medellín, to do a transition to the sustainable development with a transformation innovation focus. Why? Because cities worldwide are talking about intelligent cities. But what is an intelligent city? When we were studying at the university, they told us that intelligence is the capacity to solve problems. An intelligent city is a city that can solve its issues, its problems. The question is, what are the problems, issues that Medellín is solving? We want citizens that live in territories with high qualities of life. But today, our city, our country, the world is living the issues that are called mega trends, which are very complex issues, problems that has our species in crisis. We have CO2 emissions in the atmosphere that are produced by our technologies. We have a loss of our biodiversity. which is evident every day. We're losing species. The metropolitan area does a great job protecting the endemic species and others. We have an erosion of our land due to the climate change. We have scarcity of hydric resources, energetic resources, and in general, resources of our ecosystems. We have a waste of food that's very considerable due to the lack of culture in general of the population. We have deforestation, strong storms. The climate change has transformed the dynamic of the climate in the territory, and the climate has been threatened in our planet. But on the other hand, we have issues that belong to our population, our territory, an significant increase in the population, and growth of our population. Urbanizations have grown. Medellin has a compact densification of the population. So we are densifying towards the boundaries because there is no possibility of or plan to warranty that the economical conditions can contain the growth of the cities. Contamination, excessive contamination due to the cars, the vehicles in our city, but also because the industry contaminates. And to move as citizens through our territory creates contamination. We have corruption, great problems of corruption in our territories in Colombia. We have a threat, a nuclear threat, due to the research done in the different countries. We have an inequality problem that's terrible. Medellin is a city that, after the pandemic, has faced the most important crisis that it has faced in its history, which is the pandemic, and it left us with an inequality index of 0.51% in a Gini index. If we go 0 as perfect or 1 as the perfect inequality, we have a poverty of over 32% of our population. It's monetary poverty. 9% is extreme poverty, people that live with less than $1 per day. We have a terrible topic of unemployment. During the pandemic, the unemployment grew up to 25%. Today, we are around 17%, and it is a huge challenge that we need to solve as a society. But all these that I showed you, with no doubt, has generated a social crisis, an environmental crisis that's faced not only by Medellin and Colombia, but the world has to face it. And that's why we've all been called to generate the need to create a new social pact. How the social actors are going to blend to generate the new generations. Colombia, with no doubt, has not one city in Medellin has been planned. Not one city was being thought for the future in this or that way. So that's it's going to occupy how many meters, how many housings, how many recreational spaces, how many medical centers. Not one. Not one city of this country has been planned. All the cities in our country grew in an intuitive manner, and Medellin is no exception. Medellin grew intuitively as we behaved with our economical activities in order to survive in a territory that will guarantee quality of life. But today, within the crisis, we have to think how this city that has had this intuitive growth sits and thinks about the development in order to begin a transition towards a transformation, and what is the objective that we will have as a society. The world is heading to the signature of a new social pact. And in Europe, they're doing this, and there are other countries sitting down delivering the following message. Our social crisis, the main problem is with the climate. So, climate change is an imminent risk of our society because can extinct us as a species. We have adaptation methods, or we can also have mitigation methods or adaptation to create a transformation and face the climate change. The mitigation methods are to decrease the impact that we are already creating on the planet and that threatens our species. But the adaptation methods is how we bring the social actors of our citizen, how we bring the academics, the entrepreneurs, the civil society, and the state directing this ship so we can all establish a common objective to face the climate change, and that is to begin this transition towards a sustainable development. So, intelligent city is not a city that it's full of technological things. No, and its intelligent city planifies its transition to sustainable development, and it needs a method. We cannot sit the citizens in a table with the entrepreneurs, with the academy, with the state to generate a transformation, because the citizens of Medellin and of the metropolitan area are 3 million people. So what is the method for us to structure the issues that will lead us to begin this transition? Excuse me, my slides moved. Well, the most important thing here is that we need to establish the conditions to understand that we have a multi-level level of issues, of problems. The problems of a territory are many of the transformations we need to generate in a territory that has had an intuitive growth are many in order to start managing this transition. In the territories, we have some elements that are denominated as social-technical elements. Social technical system is a technology that improves the quality of life of a human being. To set an example, the system of solid residue management is this. Mobility is a socio-technical system. Water is a socio-technical system. Energy. Why? Because it is a system that works in a dynamic and stable way. Just to set an example, the waste system, it has a public policy that has been established, which establishes the management of solid residues. It has some users or some beneficiaries that are all the citizens of Medellin, who consume and produce solid waste. We have a culture, which is the culture that Tuesdays and Thursday nights we have to take out the trash, because there's going to be a car that's going to pick up this trash. There's a technology because these vehicles pick up this trash and send it to a special landfill. We have a technology or processes that says how we're going to manage the solid waste in the territory, and we have an industry that operates or generates all these operations. So all the components that I just mentioned are those who create a social technical system, and it's dynamically stable because that's the way it works in our society. But in order to transit into a sustainable development, we need to question if the way this ecosystem works is a correct way, is appropriate way in order to have a citizen, a territory that's based and sustained in its sustainable development. That is why we believe that we need to mobilize the territory from the A point, which is the state of things right now where we are, towards a B, point B, where we want to be, or where we are conceived as an intelligent city and where we are going to transit towards a sustainable development. But in order to move a social technical system that works with these dimensions of industry, public policies, technology, of makers, of those who use these with preference of the culture of the science that surrounds this social technical system, we need to generate a pressure. We need to generate questions, research questions that will allow us to move forward towards the next level and open spaces to the innovation niches. These can only be generated by the society. This pressure needs to be generated by the state. The state needs to set on the table the situation, tells the territory the way the territory is working is not the adequate manner. The way the territory is working threatens our species. So how are we going to transform this? How are we going to start this transition? And for these, the methodology implements a pressure that in the society will say, okay, this trash, this waste system is not going to work in the future. We need to think about a new way to manage solid residues, start this transit, and when we begin this transit, we open space to the innovation niches. Why? Because they exist. We have research groups, the international groups, the society is participating and co-creating, thinking how we will correctly manage the solid waste in the future. Because and what happens with solid residues also happens with transportation, with water, with energy, with all the social technical systems. And then we begin a system where the science and the technology and innovation are placed in the service to the construction of the solutions for the territory, and there we have a transit towards the future of the social technical systems. Why is it a multi-level focus? Because climate change topic is not an environmental topic. This is a social, economical topic. Today, we are contaminating the environment because of an economical dynamic, because we need to improve our conditions, our quality of life, and those who improve our conditions and quality of life in that territory are those who produce our goods and services. For that reason, and that's why we created Promegin. Promegin was created because the companies that belong to these start thinking about the society of the future. How are we going to reindustrialize the city? Based on what are the new companies going to be created? How are we going to create the new solutions? So if the problems are multi-level, so if we have problems with so many dimensions and so many sizes, with so many conditions, and there's so many parameters that we need to ponderate, what is the method that we're going to use in order to manage that transition, to connect the new social pact, to connect the citizens, the people, connect them with the territory, with the state, with the companies, with the academy, with the university. That's why we want to have a transformation focus that has a direction. What does that mean for it to have a direction? We need to have a common objective as a society. What is the messaging of the future we want? What is the model that we need to imagine in order to set the baseline for a city that will manage its sustainable development? We cannot sit with a social pact with different objectives. Each actor cannot have a different objective because that would complicate the whole model. This would complicate the whole strategy of Medellin in order to move forward. We need to have participation. The people, the territory need to be in the middle of the discussion of the society. In other words, when the society sits in a thinking tank to think about the future of the territory, there is where the people needs to be in the middle. And we have to have participation because the only way for us to understand the issues of the territory is through an intelligent perception system with the participation of people. Those who understand their micro territories, understand what's happening to them with the information of the people is that how we can discuss problems and how we can begin the transformation. That's why we need to use the technology. I'm going to show you something very interesting and tell you why Medellin has the method to build an intelligent city. The learning and the experimentation is fundamental. When a research group proposes a transformation within the territory, that transformation could lead to diverse results, and that implies that some will work, some won't. First, because we don't know everything. Second, because we haven't tested everything in the territory. And when we say that we need to learn and experiment, it means we need to test the solutions. We need to have products impact the territory. We need to learn about this and have a fast transformation. If we have a system that's stable, that's moving forward, everything has a fast transformation because the research groups are experimenting, are learning under this methodology. And the interdisciplinarity, that is a word that it's a little bit difficult to pronunciate, but it means that we need to solve problems in all dimensions. In other words, problems in all disciplines. When we have multi-level problems, we need to have the multidisciplinarity to transform all these problems, and that implies that all disciplines need to be on this bus. In medicine should be checking its research based on the transformation of the territory for a sustainable development. We cannot have a medical solution that affects or threatens the development of our species because us as society are thinking about that. We as society are setting these. So that direction is very important in each of the disciplines. And the results and effects, the evaluation results of effect is very important. We need to evaluate permanently in order to make sure we're growing permanently and that we are making a transformation as a society. Very important, the innovation factor in these processes, in these developments. If we want to change our society, if we want to think about a new territory, we need to have innovation. If we do things as we've done it before, well, we're going down and we're going to get extinct and species. So in summary, we have a territory that grew intuitively, even though the city has a compact densification. It's growing towards the hills. We need to start a transformation process, implementing a methodology, sign a new social pact, sitting the actors on the table to think about the model of the future model, and without a doubt create a perfect communication between the actors, condense information in a cloud that create tools for public policies and technologies that will be applicable in the territory which is a territory that will be sustainable. For this, Medellin has been advancing. I quit. I didn't work with the government. So I started working with the entrepreneurs of Medellin this process, not only because this is my passion, but because in Medellin, many interesting things are happening at the same time. And the last government, well, has 3 strategic objectives in its development plan, and 2 are fundamental for this process. Or 3, well, 2 technically.
One of them is to have Valia software in Medellin, and the other one is Eco City in Medellin. Doing a software valley, we have to think about the change of the economic matrix of development of the territory. How are we thinking about the economic development of Medellin, and what's the future to reduce poverty, to increase the jobs, to reduce inequality, and to think about a territory that is sustainable. And the mayor made an invitation to us, and Pro Medellin participated, and it was the constitution of the public public-private council of technology, innovation, and reindustrialization. After getting together two public policies like industrialization and science and technology, so that everybody has to work together with the new companies and have that same direction. This council was proposed like an advisor council for building that public policy that will be launched this month, but also so that here we can start building a new social pact. And that council is a technical council. Why technical? Because the main challenges are going to be faced by them and the citizens and the territory, and this implies condensation of information in a cloud. Medellin has been working in several processes about this. First, a super app of the city that everybody will have in their phones in Medellin, to have it on hand on their cell phones so that they can manage all their processes in the cell phones, but also the constitution of a company for data to solve the challenges of the territory. And those are going to be in the cloud and are going to be part of this council that I mentioned, where we have the academy, businessmen, associations, where we have the municipality government and the national government, where the discussion is around this information of the citizens and the territory. We're going to solve fundamental problems of the territory, but this has to have methodology. And that's why the information is going to go towards the nodes of innovation. But we already have innovation nodes. They are called an innovation node. It is formed by two important components. A first component, and that's the technical component, where we have the research groups, the companies, and the government, and the entrepreneurs that want to solve a specific challenge sent by the committee, and they are going to be working soon. We already have one about energy efficiency node. It was launched by Empresas Públicas en Ruta N. It's in the third floor of Ruta N, and that committee speaks about the challenges. For example, how to decrease the cost of the utilities in Medellin, for example, because this will reduce poverty. So they have shown some results. There is a project of EPM called Split Builds, and it's an energy program of transactions, and it has to do with the installation of solar energy in Comuna 13, where the user is a prosumer. So they are producers and consumers at the same time, because they gather energy and they can spend less than what they collect. So they have a overplus. So they can do transactions with this surplus of energy. I can transfer to my neighbor or change it for goods and services. So I can give the store energy and I can get some products from the store in change. Or EPM could change that for the payment of other services, or even give him a card to make it cash so that people can go around and buy whatever they want. That's a solution that is being worked on right now in one of these nodes of innovation. Another one that is being worked on right now is intelligent meters. Some people have to go to the energy counter to write down the bill, and that logistic has a very high cost. If the meter can send directly the information, this will lower the costs, and this can be reflected in the utility bills of the citizens. So that is what we're going to do in these innovation nodes, to have these stable systems to vibrate toward the future. The second component is not only the committee, but an experiment lab. EPM, with the node of energy efficiency, we have an experiment lab. What do we have at the end? Because Medellin wants to have sustainable development, and we need a plan afterwards, a plan where we have solutions of the innovation nodes that have been tested in the labs that will generate a projection about the future of the territory. If we have solutions that have been proven, that have been tested, and we develop them and execute them in the territory, then Medellin of tomorrow is not going to be the same as today. In energy issues, we are pioneers in Latin America because that node of innovation, the proposal that they are working on, is working very well. So in a very close future, many neighborhoods of Medellin are going to have split builds project working. And that is going to change an economic dynamics. So EPM is also going to start the changing of the meters so that they will be automatic. Imagine how it can be the topic in mobility. Today, the node of mobility is already working, and they are working on some fees according if you have to go into some areas of the city to avoid the license plate restrictions. So that is an intelligent Medellin. We have method. And to build a smart city, it cannot be only blah, blah, blah. We really have to work on it and how to implement not only technological tools. If you want to solve the problems of the territory, you have to have the people in the center and co-creating with them the challenges and the solutions. Here, Medellin has some important goals to meet, and that is to reduce inequality, reduce poverty, 5.27%. That's a huge challenge. That's a very big challenge where we from Medellin, we have to work very hard so that poverty is reduced because we are the motors of economy, and without that, we could not accomplish it. Increase in jobs, 26,000 people. This is a goal easier to achieve. And the most important, the reduction of CO2 emissions, 20%. That is going to solve the threat of the species. Thank you so much for this space of the metropolitan area. Without any doubt, this institution is building society, opening these spaces. Just the fact that we are sitting and understanding the technical advancement of our territory is already an achievement. The young people that are working so that Medellin really pushes forward, we have that responsibility to inspire change, to inspire the society to get transformed, to make a better world. And that is the task that we have since 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. And when we go to bed, we think about this. It's very important that we as a society, we have to think about sustainable development. As citizens, think about each of the actions and micro actions that we generate daily. Even the most important businessmen generating all these challenges and we have to think about sustainable development. Thank you so much. Diego Romero, Executive Director of Pro Medellín. Thank you, Juan Camilo, for reminding us through this forum the importance of the method, the importance of being organized in an intelligent territory. He spoke about a multi-level approach, organized with method, and a sustainable transformations where the citizens are in the center of the project. He spoke about niches of innovation with economy and the transit of the socio-technical systems toward the future. He spoke about a new social pact where the citizens are in the center of all this transformation process. So it is important to remind you that all the participation of the citizen is vital to be able to achieve all these processes and the citizens. Linda, it is a very well explained concept and an x-ray of our country. He spoke about the national territory and the challenges in sustainability, and sometimes we don't trust the institutions. He spoke about the pandemic of COVID-19. Then we are speaking about an ecologic social pact to participate the academy, the citizens, the private sector, the public sector, and that the citizens are always in the center. That's why the participation of Pro Medellín in the Council of Science, Technology, and Information is very important because they want to get reunited to think about the city and propose solutions to the realities of the territory. It's an X-ray of Medellín, what we just saw. To know more about what is being done from Medellín and the participation of the citizens is key. Like we are participating through the social media with a question, what is it for you, a smart city? What is a smart city for you? Well, Juan Camilo, with everything that we have learned throughout this forum, we could not focus smart city in only one term. There are many variables that compose a smart territory with the 10 municipalities of the Valley of Aburrá and the different needs of each one of the municipalities in mobility, in health, in participation, in digitalization, everything that has to do with governance, everything that has to do with all these topics. We're building tactical urbanism as well. Yes, that's also part of it. They are part of a smart territory. It's not only the use of big data, what has to do with technology, but it goes beyond how the citizen participates, how they can trust in what is being done with the use of the data. And we saw the case of Mexico City, where more than 12 million people, 2.5 million people have downloaded the app. So the government can have information and communication with the citizens. So it's a very broad topic. We cannot summarize it in one word. Somebody that was connected in YouTube mentioned that where is health? We have approached it with relationship to the COVID-19 pandemic and how the use of the data we have been able to detect where are the greatest contact zones or infection zones, and we have been able to divide the city according to this information, understanding little by little what is being done in the territories. And now let's review more than 600 people that are connected through our streaming in YouTube and through the metropolitan area networks. Beatriz Consuelo says it's a bet to built with all the interest groups, Carlos Monsalve. It's important the institutional commitment to promote programs for education, to make public policies more agile. We have comments of Maria Elena Owen. He says, I agree, active participation is a key for the achievement of all the projects for sustainable development. We have comments from all over the world. Like you were saying, Linda, they have different concerns. And like we have said it before, during these 4 days in this Metropolitan Forum, we are speaking about the special needs of each one of the territories. We saw the environment, how important it is, and how to solve it. Safety can be very important. And to contrast that, what we can do is the example of Valle de la Burrada, municipality of Bello, where they integrate the public lighting and the use of LED lights, and with surveillance. They have improved criminality indexes with these measures. So with those challenges, we have generating transformations, and they are becoming a smart city. Today, we have guests from Valley of Aburrá. We have the municipality of Envigado to the south, and also the initiatives from this territory, because that municipality is densely populated. Recently, they needed a transformation in the territorial plan because they were building a lot of high story buildings. So we want to learn about these experiences. Yes, Juan Camilo, many people may be asking themselves, we want to know about the Colombian model, what is happening. We are the guests of this Metropolitan Forum of Smart Cities. We know that there are people from all over the world that are connected. So what is happening in Colombia? So we have invited somebody very important from the Ministry of Technologies and Information that has to do with smart cities. Now we have in line Aura Maria Cifuentes. She is the Director of Technologies of Information and Communications of Colombia. Welcome, Director, and thank you for being with us.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation. It's an honor to be in these spaces to share with you what we're doing in intelligent territories. Thank you, and you are all welcome. So I'm going to begin sharing my screen. Please confirm if you see it. So, as I said before, my name is Aura Cifuentes Soler, and I'm going to talk to you about the present and future of intelligent territories in Colombia, or CTI. Well, have you heard about different initiatives and projects of different countries to face these public problems with technology? So I'm going to share with you what we've been doing in Colombia and what the ministry has been doing. So it is important to begin placing you into a context to all the people who are listening to us, because the frame of the politics where we can work, we can implement several initiatives. Since 2008, we have policies in Colombia that says what we need to do in internal process, how it should modernize from the door towards the inside, and how it should use the technology to communicate with the citizens, and how the citizens can use those different instruments and mechanisms that are available so they have a better relationship. So these two components for the society and the state want to understand that needs to understand that there are two different users, but the logic says it has to have more in efficient internal processes, more modern processes, organizational culture facing these technologies in order to provide better services and goods to the citizens. And the citizens need to be empowered with social control and managing that relationship so that feedback comes to us as public officers. So we have two transversal bricks or pillars where we have the structure of all of the basis of all these, which you can see in the screen, which is uh, privacy, safety, and digital citizens in order to have technology that is robust, that's updated with the different standards, and in order to achieve the alignments and the parameters to protect this information, know what information we have, and to classify this information, and to be able to have digital services and technological solutions that allow the citizens to interact with the state. For what? For the big purposes of the politics, to have safe internal processes, decisions based in data, empowering the citizens through an open government, and to have intelligent territories and citizens using these technologies. And when we understand these policies, we know that, well, you have to do these. I'm going to explain to you how you should do this. So we have the how and what for. Why do I need to have these users, or how we can materialize the objectives of these policies? So it's important to go deep into the legal framework of cities and intelligent cities and territories. So we have Law 1955 from 2019, which is a Pact for Colombia, Pact for Equity, and it's very relevant. The people who are listening to us, this is the first plan that has an axis on digital transformation, setting guidelines of where we need to go, and in the articulate, it gives empowers those guidelines. And we have Article 147 about public digital transformation, defining that we need to have technical guidelines to support the strategies of the different territorial entities of the country. And besides Article 148, we have Article 140, besides Article 147, we have Article 148. We have an integrated model with some policies that the entities need to comply to related with public function in Colombia, that as a government seeks clear policies, and in that policies we have the policy of digital government, and this happens from that door of the entity towards the inside. We are users, we need to understand that public entity in order to modernize and use the different trends that we have in terms of technology. And in this specific article, we see the need to generate a model of intelligent cities and territories that allows to understand that one thing are the alignments, and another thing is the legal frame, and the different thing is what makes the creates instruments, the tools that are delivered to the entity to know how they are. So this model begins with a first definition or a first conceptual frame that allows to explain what is an intelligent city or territory. So we've defined that this is an intelligent territory if it promotes, co-designs, and implements the development of the city to improve the quality of life of the citizen. And these verbs are very important: promote, co design, and implement. They are very important verbs because a city, when a public policy occurs in a territory, the public problem has a collective pain that responds to the reality of the territory. Around this, we have an ecosystem of other actors that promote this. And what we are seeing today is that this that is being implemented can we can see if it more political, more environmental, more sociological, or three of them. So when we understand this, the most important thing is to identify in a optimal manner where the use of these technologies allow us to leverage and resolve the issues. So from the ministry, we've promoted this as a purpose of the policy, but also we've seen and evidence shows that in as societies advance, that to have strategies of intelligent cities and territories allows to homogenize the use of technologies within the different regions and realities, and it's very valuable that this is not a perfect recipe. Want the technology to be a channel to solve an issue and diagnose a problem and then build solutions and see where should we head in order to provide a better quality of life to the citizens. And in that sense, I would like to tell you a history or achievements we've had since 2019, 2020 in terms of impact. This is important because, as I've told you, since 2018, the policy of digital government already said this, but in 2019, we were seeking to understand how to materialize the maturity model of intelligent cities and how to co-finance these initiatives with the territory and how to make this ecosystem to have more institutionalized spaces so that relationship can be created, like what happened in Colombia, that we have a table to work on this. So let's begin with the model. The maturity model is one of the tools that has allowed us to materialize these guidelines. When we are saying what we need to do, the feedback received is how do we make this work? What tool, what technique will allow us to implement this or strengthen these weak areas, or which ones I already have that are strong enough and I start using. So we created this maturity model, which is a virtual model that creates sets a baseline so we can start with a project plan. This model has 6 dimensions: environment, economical development, citizen, quality of life, governance, and habitat. And in each of these dimensions, we seek to make them applicable and to be used in every problem or any city of Colombia. So the dimensions that we've identified, besides being dimensions of a territorial entity, of a governing major office or government office, we've followed we said, as our global society, we have different topics that are very important that we've seen also here, these dimensions that are macro roadmaps of the worldwide roadmaps. But here we are evaluating the aspects related to management of resources, mm, climate change, and we want to look to uh, everything that's related with circular economy, which is a relevant topic, and how can make new business models. So we need to think about education, social equality, empowering the citizens, and in terms of quality of life, we consider well-being, security, all the cameras that allows to make decisions using data on real time, health, tourism, in governance, in quality of life. Tourism is very important because many of the countries in this situation, in COVID and pandemic, the reactivation is promoting tourism. Governance considers citizen participation related with the relationship between the citizen and the state, and in habitat, everything related to public services and mobility. What have we done? The model is created with the dimensions and subdimensions, and in 2019 we programmed that 10 entities would implement this model. We finally had 21 entities implementing this auto-diagnosis model, twice as much as we thought we would have. So 61 entities started executing these, more than what we had programmed. We had programmed 50 entities. So we wanted to compare them and see and plan if the chronogram, that roadmap to be implemented, to know where we were heading. And in general, we are we have this roadmap in our digital site. So this moving forward, this is something that's very interesting, how all these initiatives are implemented. So we have a auto-diagnosis that leads us to have some roadmaps and to monitor the steps of the entities to comply with the purposes of that diagnosis. And the ministry in the last year has worked on, besides working hand in hand, how can we make this tangible, making agreements, co-financiations between the ministry, different ministries and the territorial entities. So we have a technical um, work that is done with the initiatives and based on the problems of the territory, and with something with sometimes they are still on the draft, or they are a little bit better, but we help them to structure a more robust project. And right now we have 3 projects that have been signed. And as the ministry, we are working in that technological vertical, seeing what we're going to optimize. But sometimes this goes to one of the dimensions of the model. So when they are related to environment or mobility, we as a ministry, we call the entities that are leading that sector the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Transportation, so they can provide the technical information and create an impact with the project. So in 2020, we had that first agreement We have the metropolitan area of Barranquilla with 5 municipalities of Atlántico, the technology ministry and transportation ministry. The project is intelligence mobility, a platform of public transportation in Barranquilla that was had already been started, but we are going to provide new mechanisms and tools that will make it better. This that was done in 2020. We've also worked with tourism and with mobility with other entities during 2021, and we hope to have more projects running soon. So the interinstitutional table, well, we were talking about ecosystems because we need an articulation of the public sector, the academy, the civil society, and we need to have a table to coordinate the definition of technical guidelines because as a ministry I'm an expert in technologies, but I cannot give a technical sub concept about a sector that's not part of my DNA. So that's why it is so important for other sectors to be involved so we can touch other sectors, create work on the different dimensions and this has been great. So this is just for you to understand or see who can participate. We also have the presidency, the ministries of the sector, we have sectors related with urbanism, the Observatory of Cities, we have Colombia of Efficient Procurement, and we have other ministries like the Ministry of Environment that also participate in the.
We want to work together with the national level to strengthen the all of the ministries, and we have been working with accompaniment of these initiatives of co-financing, and we have been noticing that we have to change some things and change and adapt until we have a conceptual framework that is the most comprehensive possible in the territories in Colombia. So being able to have that space has been very important. What have been the greatest achievements so that you can understand? Several of them, you can read them in the slide. During 2020, we could obtain a document and elaborate some recommendations for smart territories. And in this table, we have been working more between public procurement that will allow the public entity, they can be used, and by technology, by different areas of technology in a more organized, efficient, transparent way, more competitive. And we do that hand in hand with Colombia Intelligent Procurement. And it is very interesting for public procurement. And in the framework of prices, we can choose an instrument that can be standardized. And in these cases, we have been working in surveillance. It's one of the elements that is transversal for this project. So here we are giving the tool to the public entity that once they define the project and the solution, they can buy it. And you can buy that to some prices that correspond to the market and to the principles that are respected in this. There are going to be more agreements of the price framework and be able to identify more projects in intelligent mobility, in traffic lights that will allow us to give more instruments to the territorial entities to be able to continue buying technology. And now I go to the last module. It's called the present and the future. So when we understand what we have done according to the guidelines, it's not only a technological advancement, but a sustainable development that is allowing to rethink the cities in the short and long term. So we are also going to tell you what we're doing today in 2021. So the maturity model of CTI, we have a goal, and we have always overpassed that goal. As you can see, we have programmed to do the accompaniment of 70 entities, and today in the execution we have 115 entities. And for us, this is very important because we can work with new entities and we can have a more customized accompaniment of each one of these entities. And besides this, is that we want to articulate the territories. In this accompaniment, we really have to understand what is the roadmap to follow, and it has to be related with the development plans and territorial plans. We want to improve the quality of life of the citizens, and the entities that participate have to have this very clear, because here we have to understand the needs of the citizen and have more efficient practices from the public servers. This is a map of the Department of Antioquia, and we wanted to show you with the governor. We have been working hand in hand, and this is like a dashboard to check how we're doing with those that are working with us to understand it easier. We are working with 30 entities of the Department of Antioquia. They are implementing the model. Of the 115 entities, 30 are from Antioquia. The instruments are perception capabilities and result measurements that will allow us to generate the baseline. This is the department that is more advanced. Medellin and Envigado have had a lot of citizens' participation. Here you can notice what we have advanced most in the territory is to complete the goals of the perception surveys, and there are some that are pending to complete in 3 instruments or in the results. So if you can see the map and you are here, the invitation is to complete it, fill it up. This information is vital for the work plan to be defined after gathering the information. Here we're very happy to continue working with the municipalities of Antioquia. In the guidelines and agreements of the price framework, so that the entities decentralized of procurement or services to have better scale economies, to increase, because before we hired technology and right now it has to go through a different process. And third, share the knowledge among the different agencies or state departments. So according to the framework of prices, it is the cameras of surveillance, photovoltaic systems, satellite platform, intelligent mobility, smart mobility as well. So Colombia smart procurement is very important because we have also done workshops to understand the public servers, why it is important this price framework, how to use it. It's a creation of awareness. And in the second semester, we are doing workshops about the photovoltaic agreements and the other agreements that we are working on as well. In the last one that we organized in July 22, about cameras, surveillance cameras, more than 300 public servers participated, so that was an important number. So the technical accompaniment and project structure and project co-financing. We are working with Fontur and the digital national agencies. We are working in geo-reference platforms that we can promote smart tourism. And in the case of Manizales, like I was telling you, is technical in transportation for Manizales and trying to optimize mobility in Manizales, in this municipality. And with technology, this can improve. Today, the ones that you see here in the slide, we began with a basic structure and we tune it up in the tables. So we are working with 36 similar projects. Some can be agreements and other will just be technical accompaniment. But to have that in practice, the guidelines, we really have to face the challenges when we try to leverage these problems with technology. In the interinstitutional table of CTI, one that I think is very important in Colombia, we have a competitive system where we gather periodically to define the roadmap in different topics that the country should have in competitiveness. And last year, a table was created about digital economy. And we really have to focus on that agenda because it's very valuable. What we were speaking about ecosystems, that the private sector can also have its opinion on this table. We want to update smart cities in Colombia, have more strategies of articulation among the different sectors, more allies and participants. There are a lot of international actors and civil society that has a lot to say. So continuing the execution of strategies and initiatives, continue with that monitoring so that the strategies can be successful and understand the impacts and results. And finally, the governance mechanisms. We have to speak about them in this table. And for this, we require to define some kind of roles. So we're very focused in contributing in front of this and trying to take to the table all of the lessons learned and all the processes that we have had simultaneously. So I want to close my intervention. This is one of the more relevant projects, and we really see very clearly the results, what implies to have a digital policy, and the territories in Colombia have a lot of willingness to try to improve their territory with technology and change the citizens' life in the different dimensions. So we are here in digital government, and we are always open to share all of our achievements. And with all these municipalities, with the 30 municipalities, we can really do some good work plans, and you can have all the accompaniment and technical assistance from the digital government. We have a very available team to help you and to continue strengthening the public servers, the CEOs, and those that are working with the digital agenda. So thank you very much for the space in the Ministry of TIC. Thank you so much, Aura Maria. And your talk really makes us understand what you're working on. Okay, Juan Camilo. So thank you so much for this talk that speaks about the articulation with the nation and highlighting what is happening from the governor of Antioquia's office with the municipalities and with this digital plan. Juan Camilo. Let's go to the European continent. The manager, Ramon Torra Exicoy. We welcome him to our first forum of smart cities. Let's wait and see if he's already connected and share their experiences from Barcelona, our first international guest that comes directly from the metropolitan area of Barcelona. So it is very interesting to speak about metropolitan areas because what we are seeing is to have an effective participation. What is happening with the participation? So let's begin with the first international forum of smart cities. Like Juan Camilo said, it's important to understand what is happening in this metropolitan area, very different from the conditions of El Valle of Aburrá, very meaningful experiences. So thank you so much to the manager of Barcelona. Thank you so much. Good afternoon for me, good day for you. Our schedule difference. I have a presentation. I will set it up. Meanwhile,
estoy intentando colgarla, pero muy bien. A ver.
we are talking here. Meanwhile, you set up your slide. You had an experience from Colombia, from the territories of environment, economic development, quality of life, governance, and habitat. We have guests from Spain. Yesterday we had guests from Bilbao, and today we have the metropolitan area of Barcelona, and we have other countries, other guests that are going to have presence in this International Forum of Smart Cities. Countries like South Africa, we're going to have people from Brazil and Japan. And from the local side, we have the perspective here in Medellin with the process of reindustrialization, the Council of Industrialization and the Valley of Software. And from the south, we're going to have from the municipality of Envigado, Braulio Espinosa, to understand what is doing in innovation from this city. So, Juan Camilo, it is important to tell what the digital government was saying about what it has said about the digital strategy. And she highlighted two cities here in Antioquia, Medellin and Envigado, where we have had the accompaniment from the government, but also from the citizens with this zone of the country. We're going to have the mayor from Envigado, how they have used the information, the data, the technology favoring their strategy. Now we can see your slides. You can start now. The image is frozen. Now you can hear you.
Pues, buenos días.
Good day. Good day. Ellos no tienen.
Muy bien. Pues no, en primer lugar querría agradecer al área metropolitana del Valle de Aburrá el haberme invitado a participar en este foro. Yo lo que haré es sobre una presentación
We are going to have
que
a
explica
presentation
algunos
that
ejemplos de la
explains
aplicación
some
de
examples
tecnologías
of the
para la gestión de
applications
servicios
for
en el
technology
área
and
metropolitana.
management of
Sería la
services from the
plataforma
metropolitan area.
AMB de gestión de
It is
servicios.
the AMB
Una
platform
parte de lo que
of
es todo el uso de la
service
tecnología
management,
para
the
la
use
mejora de
of
la calidad de
technology
vida de
for
los ciudadanos
improvement
a
of the
partir de
quality of
esta
life of the citizens
eficiente gestión de
from
servicios.
this efficient service management.
En primer lugar, lo que
In
me
the
gustaría
first
también es
place,
explicar
what
quiénes
I would
somos.
like to
Para,
explain is
si
who we
explicamos
are.
qué hacemos, seguramente es más fácil
It
entender
is
cómo
easier
podemos
to
aplicar
understand
la
how we can
tecnología.
apply
El área
technology.
metropolitana de
The
Barcelona
metropolitan
es
area of
una
Barcelona
entidad local
is a local
que tiene
entity
competencias
that has
básicamente en estos
competence
6
in
ámbitos
these
que defino,
6
¿no? En el ámbito
environments
de
that I
territorio,
define: territory,
competencias en urbanismo,
competence
en
in
planeamiento,
urbanism,
en
planning,
aprobación y en
approval,
gestión del
and in
urbanismo,
management
también
of
sobre
urbanism,
una amplia red de parques
and
urbanos,
a broad
también la
network
gestión
of
de
parks,
espacios naturales,
also
por ejemplo
natural
las playas,
spaces like the
todo lo que es las playas
beaches
para el uso público,
for the
pero
public
también
use,
para controlar los
and to
efectos del
control
cambio
the effects
climático.
of climate
Las costas
change
son los de los
in
que
the
más están
coasts.
sufriendo, la
They are
gestión
suffering a
de lo que
lot in
serían
the
playas,
coastal
espacios
zones, the
naturales.
beaches and
El
natural
área metropolitana de
spaces.
Barcelona
The
tiene
natural area, the
con una
metropolitan
superficie
area,
relativamente
has a
reducida, más
relative
de la mitad de
reduced
su
surface.
territorio son
More
espacios
than
libres,
half of the territory
naturales o
are free
territoriales.
natural
Sobre este ámbito también
spaces,
tenemos competencias,
and we have
y
competence over
gestionamos
this,
los ríos
and we manage
metropolitanos
them, the
y
rivers,
también lo que es la reacción de
and
proyectos de
the
obras
project
de espacio
reaction of
público, de
public
equipamientos
space
en el ámbito metropolitano, pero
equipments in the
equipamientos
metropolitan
o
area,
espacios públicos de
or
carácter
public
urbano y,
spaces
por
that are
tanto,
urban
municipal, ¿no?
and
Es
municipal.
la forma de mejorar la
That
calidad
is the way
urbana
to
también como forma
improve
de
the
mejorar la
urban
calidad de vida de los
quality
ciudadanos.
and to improve the
También en
quality of
el
life
ámbito de
of the
medio
citizens.
ambiente,
In
ciclo integral del
environment,
agua,
the
la
cycle of
gestión
water,
de residuos, el
the
tratamiento de los
residues,
residuos
the
en alta,
treatment of
también el
residues,
seguimiento
the
de
follow-up
los datos que nos
of
marcan la
data,
evolución de lo que es el cambio
where we
climático
have
y
the
también
evolution
sobre
of
lo que es la
climate
energía,
change
sobre todo la
and
aplicación
energy,
de energías renovables de cara
renewable
a la
energy,
reducción de las
so we
emisiones
can
de carbono.
reduce the
También en el
CO2
ámbito de la
emissions.
movilidad y el transporte
And mobility
público,
and public
del
transportation,
desarrollo de todos los sistemas de
from the
movilidad
development of
sostenible
all the
mecanizada,
sustainable
las
systems,
infraestructuras y también lo que es el transporte
infrastructures,
público a
and
través
public
de los
transportation
sistemas de autobuses y
through
del
the bus
metro y
system
con
and metro
distintos
system
modelos de gestión.
and with
Una sola red
different
con
models.
distintos
One
operadores, un
network
gran
with
operador
different
público y
operators.
distintos de
There
privados.
is one
También en el ámbito de
public and
vivienda,
several private.
la
In
construcción de vivienda
housing,
asequible para
house
uso de las capas
building
más
that is
vulnerables de la
accessible for the
población
most
y
vulnerable
importantes
people of the
programas de
population,
rehabilitación
and rehab
energética funcional estructural de la vivienda
programs
construida.
from
Otro ámbito,
energy,
desarrollo social y económico,
social and
como
economic
las relaciones
development, and
internacionales
the
como sistema
international
de intercambio
relationships
o
as an
mejora el intercambio de
exchange
conocimiento
system
de
to
cara a
improve
aplicar
knowledge,
políticas.
to apply policies.
Es una ciudad
It's a
situada
city
en
that
el
is
sur
located
oeste de Europa, en
in
el
the
Mediterráneo,
southeast of Europe, in the
una ciudad
Mediterranean.
dinámica con una larga
It's
historia.
dynamic with a long history,
También la voluntad de constituirse en
and the
hub de
will
este sur de Europa, con el movimiento de mercancías,
with the
un
movement of
puerto, un
merchandise.
aeropuerto
It has a port, an airport
importantes,
that are very
una red de
important,
ferrocarril de
and
alta
a
velocidad
railway
también en
network that is
crecimiento.
also
Por
very
tanto,
important and
una
growing.
ciudad conectada
So
al
it's a
mundo
city that is
físicamente
connected
y lo que
with the world
pretendemos también es
physically. And what
digitalmente.
we pretend is to connect it
La
digitally
interconexión
as
en las
well.
ciudades es
The
un elemento
interconnection in the
fundamental
cities
para
is
este
an
desarrollo y,
elemental
por tanto,
element to understand the quality of life of the citizens, and this interconnection is understood at all levels. The closer system, the relationship between the citizen with their environment without continuity solution. We want the citizens to go from the doors of their houses and to be able to go to all places in the city close by. So we have to improve internal connectivity. Biodiversity is also very important in Barcelona because we have beaches, we have rivers, we have parks, and a mountain range that has a lot of parks with different characteristics among them that favor the quality of the environment. How do we understand the concept of smart cities? It's a broad, confusing concept, and maybe I don't like it so much, but the use of technology for the improvement of the quality of life and management of the city, there are elements of cost reduction to minimize energy losses and make all the systems more efficient. And we can improve the results and the quality of the services. Also, the experiences improve and facilitates the participation. The technologies approximate the citizen to the manager of these services in the public and private sector. And this experience of having technology available on hand and the access to services better and easier. And at the same time, the reduction of the carbon footprint and improvement of the management of the territory and improvement of climate change. The new technologies and the new methodologies of management, they change the experiences of the users. It's an ecosystem that connects with all the other ecosystems, from the administration, the service suppliers, the other administrations, and other municipalities of the metropolitan area, or the users and the citizen. That is why there is a interactive deployment according to these services about the experiences and the management of the administration. And it facilitates the accountability. How are my taxes spent and how efficient are they spent for the management of these services? How are my taxes spent? And going to the concrete experiences in the metropolitan area, in this fourth case, in this platform of service management of the metropolitan area, we have different layers. One is public spaces like parks, beaches, rivers, and we follow that axis to develop elements that favor the interaction and improvement of efficiency. In the case of the parks, for example, there were some data. The metropolitan area manages 55 parks, urban parks, from different sizes, distributed along the territory, and with a management model that will help optimize all the resources that the contractor facilitates.
Right now, for example, as I said, we were saying 51. Now we have 55 alerts of interactions by citizens. The citizens, through the apps, through their app in their cell phone, detects any situation when they believe an element of this park is not in the adequate conditions, then he can introduce the alert that's received simultaneously by the municipality, by the metropolitan area, the administration of the metropolitan area, and by the person who is providing the service. And it responds saying when the situation is going to be solved, and finally, when the situation is solved, it reports again. So this is basically information to the citizen, but the inspectors, the technicians of the park have the three elements: the cell phone, a tablet, and a laptop. And in real time in the parks, they introduce or they do a follow up. So everything is done on real time. The app, the platforms that provide continuous information about the state of the how the systems are functioning, the lights, the sprinklers, or also about what happens with the different municipality and the satisfaction of the different municipalities through an informative website where they all update the information of the parks and what's happening in them. And finally, we have what's used by the inhabitants that allows to take pictures, upload them, and send the geolocalization of the site. We have examples of how we respond. The management explains with these different tools the number of situations that were reported, how many were solved, how many are being solved, or the satisfaction surveys to the citizens to know the degree of satisfaction of the service that is provided, and finally, all the activities done in each of the different parks, activities of environmental education that are for families or schools, etc. About the beaches, well, we have a coastline of 42 kilometers in the metropolitan area of Barcelona, not considering the port. There are 32 kilometers translated into 41 beaches, which are the spaces that are defined with physical elements with the characteristics of usage of these beaches. So we have 136 containers. And to reduce the visual impact, we want these containers to be underground and to facilitate picking up the trash, avoiding manual pickup, and through sensors we will know the amount of usage of these containers. These beaches also, well, we have some báculos that have some sensors for climate sensors, to see the wind velocity, and we also have now Wi-Fi, and we are implementing 5G at the beach. The beaches are greatly used. There's huge downloads of videos. People also watch movies, so we require a better velocity, because this is an area of great usage of the metropolitan area. We have around 12 million users per year, both during the winter and the summer. Of course, during the winter it's lower, and increases during the summer, but also there are users during the winter, especially during the days, the sunny days, or where there are hot summer days.
En el caso del, no, en el tema de playas, finalmente quería hablar que es todo el sistema de gestión es similar al de parques, por tanto, incidencias en mobiliario, estado de limpieza.
We also check how clean it is. We control if all the pickup truck, how often it goes by. So it's a very similar platform to the one we presented previously. For the rivers, we also have something very similar for maintenance of the rivers. Also, the public use of these areas is very important, and the cleaning and the maintenance of the infrastructures of the roads is very important. So we need to see the use of these avenues. Well, there are rivers with avenues that have changes. So they're very important. So there are residues that need to be cleaned in these rivers. And we also have the control of avenues for the safety of the users of the river. As I was saying, in 30 minutes, the river flow can increase considerably, creating consequences on the users. So the information system is something else that is that we need to work, and we work upon. So we have all this information in real time. We see how the maintenance of the evolves, how the results of things that happen. People can go and do consultation about the information. They can say, okay, we have this knowledge of how this service is working. Everything is done in real time. Another topic of the metropolitan area is the mobility. We are talking about mobility as a service element of equality in the metropolitan city. The distance is always an issue, so the mobility elements beginning by public services need to have maximum quality. And second, it is a mobility that will reduce the CO2 emissions, to reduce the problem of climate change, which is a global issue that we need to solve locally. So we have examples, electric mobility, use of bicycles, and that network of public transportation, and this is the main element that allows the growth and the normalization of the electric vehicle. And we want to have electric cars, buses, bicycles, and also the need of a system of public parking spaces in the metropolitan area through an app that will allow you to know where are the parking spaces of the metropolitan area, if they are full, if there are available spots, user unification. It is also a fee system, the use conditions for electric vehicles, the vehicles that do not contaminate will be for free or have reduced fee for parking spaces, also charging stations for electric vehicles, and on public transportation, well, the energetic efficiency within a network of public transportation with over 2,000 buses. Well, with the pandemic, we've had a strange period where we didn't have a growth, but we did of number of buses, but we did change we moved to hybrid or to electric public vehicles. Well, what we seek for efficient architectures in the use of these stages with energetic efficiency, having the metro as a great energy consumer. The topic about communications, facing the citizen to know when it's how much time does it take for a citizen to move from one side of the city to another one, the possibilities of exchanges at the metro station. We have 72 trains that are moving constantly, and these 121 kilometers of public transportation networks.
Se ha quedado colgada por lo que veo. Podemos volver. Sí, perdonar porque...
Okay, I want to thank Ramon Torra, manager of the Metropolitan area of Barcelona. We saw his presentation where he was telling us about the situations of these 36 municipalities where there are 3.2 million inhabitants here in Spain, with important challenges in terms of everything related with the beaches for public use. Because please recall that they don't only have 3.5 million inhabitants, but they have to face the challenges of tourism. This is one of the most visited cities of Europe. So I would like to know if we will go back to him or if he finished his presentation so we can move forward. I think he was finishing. And as Juan Camilo was saying, this is related with the challenges in facing the climate change using emerging technologies. So Juan Camilo, we have more international guests. So who's going to be with us from Japan? Well, it is time to know about the experience of Asian city. We want to welcome Mutsuro Ekato from Aichi, Japan.
皆さん、こんにちは。私は愛知県自然環境課の加藤と申します。本日はスマートシティに関する取り組みとのことで、愛知県の生物多様性モニタリング調査および
Mi nombre es Kato de la División del Medio Ambiente Natural de la Prefectura de Aichi. Gracias por brindarnos la oportunidad de presentar hoy el sistema de monitoreo de biodiversidad de la Prefectura de Aichi como una iniciativa relacionada con las ciudades inteligentes. Presentaré brevemente el esquema de la prefectura. Japón es un país insular ubicado en la parte noreste y este del continente asiático. Aichi se encuentra en el centro y tiene una población de 7.5 millones de habitantes. Es la cuarta área metropolitana más grande del Japón. Es una región donde la industria manufacturera prospera, principalmente la industria automotriz, pero la proporción de bosques y tierras agrícolas es alto, por lo que la agricultura también ha florecido, ha aumentado. Aichi es la ciudad de las flores, es la prefectura de Aichi. Allí la industria de las flores es número uno desde 1962, por lo que también se le conoce como el reino de las flores de Aichi. En la foto vemos el Festival de las Flores. Este se lleva a cabo del 12 al 22 de agosto. En el 2005 se celebró la exposición sobre la sabiduría natural, la primera exposición mundial resaltando el valor de la naturaleza, la sabiduría de la naturaleza. La conciencia de los ciudadanos de la prefectura sobre el medio ambiente natural aumentó significativamente, así que en el 2010 se celebró un evento para adoptar los objetivos de Aichi sobre el manejo del medio ambiente y nuevamente este fue un evento mundial, fue un honor. Un gran honor para mí participar en este evento. Hoy en día las aguas termales son de gran importancia, es una aventura en Japón. Por eso estamos poniendo mucho empeño en hacer estos eventos ambientales para poder aprender a vivir en armonía con la naturaleza. Tenemos la estrategia del 2030 de Aichi para la diversidad biológica. Esta fue formulada en el 2021 para la conservación de la diversidad biológica de Okinawa y el objetivo es a largo plazo para el 2050. Pero el método del 2030 es una iniciativa exclusiva para que las personas de Aichi se vinculen y protejan la naturaleza. Tenemos una red del ecosistema, eso es una forma de red para alcanzar los objetivos a largo plazo. Estamos trabajando en tiempo real, en línea, para aumentar la conciencia sobre la biodiversidad y fomentar las conexiones entre las personas y los diferentes actores locales como los ciudadanos y la administración. ¿Qué es una formación de red de ecosistemas? El ecosistema original de la región está dividido por la conversión y el desarrollo del uso de la tierra. Tenemos la naturaleza y esta organización está bien formada, promoviendo la organización, por ejemplo, de las personas que son dueñas de las tierras, las empresas, el gobierno, los residentes, para trabajar con el urbanismo. Esto es un esfuerzo con el fin de restaurar el ecosistema. Aquí tenemos los 9 territorios que conforman. Tenemos el territorio de Chita, Nishigawa, Mikawa, el norte Owari, Shitarawa, Higashi, Mikawa, la península de Atsumi y el sur de Owari y parte de Awari. Las actividades por ecosistema incluyen la restauración de los biotipos, los eventos de observación de la naturaleza, unas encuestas de monitoreo y viviendo la experiencia de conservación. La historia del monitoreo de la biodiversidad incluye
県内の9つの地域において
estas nuevas
生態系ネ
regiones
ットワーク
que
協議
tienen unos
会が
consejos
各地域
que
にお
han
ける
desarrollado
生物多様性
iniciativas
保全に
para la
関する取り組みを
conservación de
展
la
開し
biodiversidad en cada
愛知
región.
森と緑
Aquí
づくり税を利用し
tenemos
た大きい事業によっ
los
て
ciudadanos
県民
de la
NPO
prefectura
等によ
que
る保
trabajan
全活動
junto
への取り組
con
みが
las
活性化され
organizaciones, las ONGs,
企業
las
の生
empresas,
物多様性保
la
全活動への知識
academia,
が向上し
para
まし
activar
た。
iniciativas
こ
ambientales
れらの取り組みが活
y
発になり、
con
さまざまな
proyectos
主
de
体の活動への意
promoción
識が向上するこ
de
とによって
invernaderos y
活動の
de
成果が実感でき
bosques
な
de
い
Aichi,
各団体の活動がバラ
aumentando
バラ
la
である
conciencia
活動
ambiental
の目標
de
や
las actividades
計
de
画を立てるのが
conservación
難しい
que se
などの課題
realizan
が生まれまし
en
た。
el área.
これらの課題の解決に向
Tenemos una
けて
encuesta para
生物多様
monitorear
性の
la
指標となる指
biodiversidad,
標書を定め、その取り組みの成果の見える化を
visualizando
図る
los
ため、
objetivos
生物多
o
様性
los
モニタリン
logros
グ
de
調査を実施するこ
conservación
とにしまし
que
た。
se han hecho por medio de
そし
este
て、まず
monitoreo.
モニタリング調査を行うための事前準備を行い
Tenemos,
ました。
aquí les quiero explicar los antecedentes de
2017
esta
年から
encuesta.
2018年に
Buscamos
かけて
una
調査
selección
の
de,
対象として指標となる
o
種、
seleccionamos
植
las
物50種、
especies
動物
objetivo
50種
y
を選定し、
construimos este método
県
de
民向けの調査
encuesta.
方法を構築し、
Esto lo hicimos
ハン
en
ドブックとしてマニュアル化しました。
2017-2018. Tenemos 50 especies de
見える
plantas
化ツー
y
ルとし
50
て
especies de
2018
animales
年
que
に
han sido
地理情報システ
identificados
ム
y se
GIS を整備し
incluyen
まし
en
た。
un manual que
GIS
proveemos a
は
los
県民
ciudadanos
が参加しやすい
y
仕組みを作るため、
generamos
指標種の種類、
una
位置
una
などの情報を
herramienta
地
de
図上に表示する
visualización
情報システム
utilizando
として整備したもの
información
です。
geográfica
そして生
para
態系ネットワー
poder
ク協議会
que
へ
todas las
モニタリング
personas
調査の協力を依頼しまし
trabajen
た。
en tiempo real y
協
nos
議会を中心とした
den
県民参加での調査を
retroalimentación,
推進するた
alimente
め、協議会に
este
対して
formato
議会
que
協
denomino
力を
aquí
働きかけ、
encuesta
2019年
y
からモニタリング調査
esta
がスタートし
comenzó a
ました。
utilizarse desde el 2019.
見える化ツールとしての GIS を利用した
Tenemos una
調査のイメ
herramienta
ー
de
ジはこの通りです。
visualización, se ha desarrollado una
GIS の
herramienta de
枠上に
visualización
植物
con
や
este
動
sistema de
物の指標
información
種に関する情報
geográfica
がポイントとして表
que
示されま
sigue
す。
funcionando con esta
GIS を利用した
esta
モニタリング調査
encuesta.
を行うことによっ
Entonces
て
tenemos unos
次のような
indicadores de
効果が期待され
información
ます。
tanto para las plantas como
生物
para
多
los
様性保全へ
animales
の
y de esta
取り組みの
manera
成果が
podemos
見える化される
visualizar
た
los
め、
resultados de
取り組み
la
が活性化される。
conservación de la
調
biodiversidad.
査に関す
De
る
esta
課題、
manera también hemos
目標、
podido
成果が
activar
共有化されるため、
diferentes
協議会の
iniciativas
求心力が強化される。
de los ciudadanos que
県民の
participan.
意識が向上し、
Porque
参加者の
tenemos,
増加がにつなが
compartimos
る。
los
こ
problemas,
のような
las
効果が期待さ
metas
れます。
y también podemos activar
こちらは、モニ
mecanismos
タリング
para
ハンドブックの
solucionar
カル
los
ガモに
temas
関
que
する紹
vemos.
介ページです。
Entonces, en este manual
形態、分
tenemos,
布と生態、
por ejemplo, aquí
探
vemos,
すポイント、
se puede ver
Documentation.
el pato, dónde
Nado
está
que se
ubicado, cuál es la morfología biológica
Mata,
de este, la
参考資料として
distribución.
県内に生息する
Entonces
全て
se
の植
mencionan
物
las
の情報に
especies
ついてまとめられ
similares
た
que están en
民
esta
データブックや
zona
県
y
内で絶
esto
滅
se
の恐れがあ
puede
る野生生
informar
物についてま
con
とめ
un
られた
código
ネット
QR,
データブック
se le
の
puede
掲載ページの情報も載
subir
せていま
al
す。
sistema, como les digo, en tiempo
Bueno,
real
QR
y
コー
entonces
ドを
la
読み
gente
取り
puede
ますと、
compartir todo
カ
lo
ルガ
que
モの鳴き
vio,
声を聞く
todo
こ
lo
と
que
もできます。
está
ICT 技術の活用が推進
observando,
されている今では、ハンドブックのよう
aumentando
なアナログ
la
経済のサポー
información
ト
que
も
tenemos
重
en
要な
este
ものとして考え
manual
ています。
y
こちらは GIS システムの専用ウェブサイトである
Aquí vemos
指
el
標チェッカーの
sistema
利用方法につ
GIS
いてです。
y se ve la forma como se
まず、発見し
activa.
た日付を選
Aquí
びます。
vemos en la pantalla
ここをクリックして、
y aquí podemos
Así.
hacer clic para seleccionar la fecha. Cuando encontramos la
以前に
especie,
撮影したファイルを
podemos
送
cargar
信
la
するか
foto o el
を選びます。
video o tomar una foto o video
Sí.
ahora o dejarlo con datos previos. Tenemos una selección de animales o plantas. Aquí hacemos clic y aquí nos da toda la información acerca de lo que estamos interrogando.
次に
Aquí continuamos con la GIS, con esta aplicación. Aquí vemos la ubicación geográfica, vemos el mapa y podemos ubicar en el mapa y hacer una georreferencia. Y podemos también ubicar el punto exacto donde tomamos la foto, ya con toda la información del espécimen que estamos fotografiando. Al final ponemos completar y guardar. También aquí le podemos poner un nombre y aquí vemos todas las funcionalidades de la aplicación. Este puede ser un ejemplo que tenemos aquí del mapa de biodiversidad. Contiene información de datos y resume toda la información de la vida silvestre, algunos que están en peligro de extinción. Aquí vemos la georreferencia y cómo se aplica al mundo real y en tiempo real, de acuerdo a si es un animal, un mineral o una planta. Podemos hacer aquí la selección. Y aquí vemos el mapa para especies raras y especies que están en el punto de extinción. Y aquí podemos hacer también la georreferenciación y esto nos ayuda para proteger especies en vía de extinción.
Entonces, aquí, por ejemplo, tenemos en la parte superior, es donde podemos darle clic y anotar si esta es una especie rara, como les mencioné, una especie en vía de extinción. Aquí puede la persona, el ciudadano puede escribir y darle enviar. Y como les digo, tenemos en tiempo real toda esta información en nuestro sistema. En conclusión, de esta manera estamos usando las tecnologías de comunicación de manera efectiva para ayudar a la conservación del medio ambiente, de la naturaleza y de esta manera generar una sociedad sostenible. Los esfuerzos de conservación se visualizan con el uso efectivo de las tecnologías y esto ha motivado a los residentes de la prefectura para que participen creando o informando sobre los ecosistemas existentes. Muchísimas gracias por su atención. We want to thank the participation of Suzuko Kato from the Division of Natural Environment from the Prefecture of Aichi, intelligent region of Japan. She was telling us how they are appropriating from this territory through a geographical system created in this area and that allows the participation of the citizens. One can be the examples that we've seen during this Metropolitan Forum that definitely they can be applied in different territories, not copying them, but adapting it to the needs of each region. So a very fond thanks to our guest, and we can see how communication technology is involved. So now we're going to invite Malu Molina. She is going to tell us she's from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and she will be talking to us.
Muito obrigada. Bom dia, boa tarde a todos e todas. É um prazer enorme poder participar do primeiro Fórum Metropolitano de Cidades Inteligentes e poder compartilhar um pouquinho com vocês das ações e planos da cidade de São Paulo rumo ao desenvolvimento inteligente e sustentável. Gostaria de agradecer mais uma vez ao governo de Medellín pela oportunidade e parabenizar pela iniciativa. O meu nome é Malu Molina, eu sou cientista política, mestranda em administração pública e atualmente ocupo o cargo de assessora especial para assuntos de desenvolvimento
I
sustentável e inovação
work
em
for sustainable development,
na
innovation,
Secretaria
and
Municipal de
technology
Desenvolvimento Sustentável de
in...
São Paulo. Eu gostaria de começar essa
Que es normal,
conversa
¿ahí?
reforçando que
I would
construir
like
uma
to
cidade
start
mais
saying that building
sustentabilidade para
a more
todos
intelligent city for
significa
us
usar
means to
inovação e
use
tecnologia para
innovation and
combater as
technology to
desigualdades
combat the
sociais,
social
combater
inequalities,
racismo estrutural e tornar as
to
nossas
combat
cidades
structural
mais verdes
racism
e
and
sustentáveis.
make
É com a
our
inovação
city
e a
a greener and more
tecnologia que
sustainable
nós
city.
conseguiremos
So in the
destacar ao
next
mundo
few minutes, I'm
as
going to
políticas
highlight some
públicas que
of
estão
the
sendo
main
realizadas
public
e
policies,
implementadas em
if they're
parceria com a
being, if
liderança da
be,
Secretaria
as
de
they are
Relações
being
Internacionais.
applied
Nossos
with the
principais
Ministry of International
Um dos
Relationships.
nossos principais projetos é
Some
transformar
of our main
um
projects
futebol
is to transform a
subutilizado
hockey
em uma
club
região
that's not
central
well
da
used in a central
cidade.
region at the heart of the city
De
into
inovação
a innovation
e
center, an inclusion
apoiar
center, a
a
space to
economia
support the
criativa,
startups and creative
gerando
economy,
oportunidades de
focusing
emprego e
in
renda para
generating important
jovens,
job
pessoas da periferia da
opportunities,
cidade,
which we
mulheres,
need a lot for
trabalhadores
the
sexuais,
youth, the
trabalhadores
women, the LGBTI, QBTI, besides having a nice green area and a space for events and for culture integrated it with, so we have startup blitz mapping the startup system. So Sao Paulo is one of the best cities in the world to create or for startups. So this is a great advancement in Latin American cities. Sao Paulo is a city characterized by disruption. That's why we're incentivizing the construction of our urban, social, and economical environment that promotes the creation of startups. We believe that we can achieve the sustainable targets up until 2030. The value of startup is related with sustainability. It is the perfect marriage. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to organize a historical, quick
da humanidade a
development
2030. Nesse
in
sentido, eu gostaria de destacar alguns
facing
projetos
2030.
que estão
So I would like to highlight other projects.
um dos
Rugby,
muito voltados para
and
apoiar
which is the first center
startups verdes e
guided to
sustentabilidade
develop green
através de
startups and
mentoria
sustainable
e
startups through
acelerações de programas
mentorship and acceleration. The program
pelas
was
prefeituras
performed by the major office of Sao
em
Paulo.
levar
And
as suas
for
startups
those of you who would like
todas as
to
camadas
start
a produção de
to
soluções
guide
de
your
desenvolvimento
technologies
sustentável
and the
pelo padrão
promotion
produzido
of
para essa
sustainable
global,
technologies, and it's not
em breve
convinced
será uma oportunidade única
of Sao
de
Paulo,
tornar
well, soon you'll
mais
see that there will be unique
desenvolvimento
opportunities.
econômico
Please jot
a
down
primeira
May
edição da
2022.
Virada
We'll have the first
BR.
edition of the BS
Programação
conversion,
cultural
and
e educacional,
it's going
além
to
de
have
outras
cultural and
ações
educational
marcatórias e
uh,
congressos internacionais que
events,
ocorrerão por toda
and
a cidade de São
we will
Paulo
have
durante
international
3 dias
meetings throughout
consecutivos.
Sao Paulo, 3 days
Nosso
in a row.
objetivo é
And our
popularizar
objective is to popularize
objetivos de desenvolvimento sustentável, porque a gente entende que só
the
conseguiremos
sustainable development, because that way we understand that we will be able to achieve the goals of our 2030 agenda, bringing together all our cities. And it would be a unique opportunity to bring new businesses and international alliances to our city. And I would like to highlight Rataton Odes and Rataton, as you all know, is a technology competition with programmers, designers, engineers, among other professionals that come together to create innovative solutions for pre-established problems. Rataton ODS has the objective to promote projects with disruptive technologies, and that way to accelerate the implementation of the Agenda 2030 in Sao Paulo, focused in 5 priority axes: the planning, sustainable intelligent planning, circular economy, the reduction of social inequalities, focusing in social protection, and the preservation of green and the environment. We are going to make a public call for sponsors, mentors, juries, and competitors of Ratatum ODS. As I mentioned before, this is an opportunity for startup entrepreneurs. Will have ODS roundtables. It's going to be a making, a connection space between investors, companies, representatives, international representatives, entrepreneurs that will be exchanging about businesses that create social impact at the city of Sao Paulo. So did you jot down the date? May 2022. But this year and at the beginning of 2022, we want to share these opportunities about this ODS change. And we chose this name because it is more than the name of an event. It represents the great change of the key, the transformation, 360 degrees changes, and the way we live and we produce and build our cities.
At the end of the day, to be a smart city, to be a future city, nobody can stay behind. Isn't that right? Well, unfortunately, because of the racism, institutional, most of the population in Brazil is going through problems. They are being left behind, and we need a big change that will eliminate racism from our countries. And I invite you all for Expo International that is organized by the Secretariat of International Relationship. What is going to happen with the Day of Black Awareness? It's the 20th. It's a holiday, and the event is going to be face to face and online at the same time. It's a hybrid event. So I invite you to participate, and we need international assistance as well. It's a struggle that we all have to participate, and I want to highlight behind the expo, and that is it's a course that is focused in fighting racism and education. It's a course online directed for the teachers of the municipal school, public schools. They are multipliers of knowledge, and they have great power for in this struggle for racial equality. And the idea is to create indicators to impact this action when we struggle structural racism in Sao Paulo. So, if I haven't convinced you all to visit Sao Paulo, to add up sum up to this initiative, I would like to present another project with the help and alliance of several sectors of the sector of Sao Paulo. Like all of you know, Sao Paulo is an innovative pole. It's the house of the startups. It's the jungle of rocks and concrete, because we have a lot of buildings and buildings that make this mega metropole with 2.5 million inhabitants. But if I tell you that Sao Paulo is the pole of ecotourism, yes, Yes, Sao Paulo is one of the main destinations for tourism in the world, but we have to develop more our ecotourism. Only 30 kilometers from the center of Sao Paulo, in the southern border of the city, we have one of the greenest areas of the department with a lot of parks and environmental protection. Para Ilhéiros. It has cascades, it has a lot of nature, a lot of fauna, flora, and also the cultural poles and creativity and artistic diversity combined with the awareness and education of the environment. Well, besides all that, besides ecotourism, we have a project that is being done in Parleiros that has been awarded the prize charge of 2016 and promoted by Bluebird Philanthropist. The project is to promote sustainability, social environment in rural area of South São Paulo through the strengthening of local agriculture using technologies and tools to integrate and connect these productive areas. That is rural, but to connect it with the economy of Brazil, creating links that are sustainable and promoting green economy. And we avoid that the areas that are used for crops cannot be invaded by the urban areas. Now my explanation has more sense when I speak about smart cities. I'm going to summarize. We want to build a smarter Sao Paulo. We want to use innovation, technology to decrease the social inequality, to fight the structural racism, to make our city more green and sustainable. We are one of the biggest city and one of the richest city in Latin America. Our great challenge is to change that richness so that it is accessible to all throughout social and economic development that is sustainable. We already started our big change of mindset, and we have to change the SDGs. We are not alone in this struggle. We are fighting together. We are dreaming together here in Medellin, in Barcelona, in Johannesburg, and in many other cities around the world. The change has already begun. We have to continue innovating, being dedicated to the cities. We hope that we can count on you as well. Thank you so much to all of you. Good day and good afternoon. Initiatives that are in our forum of smart city. With challenges, it's one of the biggest cities in Latin America and with the highest population. It's important to understand what they're doing there in social area. So we want to remind everybody and our audience through the digital channels, through the social channels and through YouTube. If you want your certification, you have to attend to 3 out of the 4 days so you can have your attendee certification. And you can continue with these big experiences, everything that we have learned today. We have reviewed some cities, but now we are going to know what is being done here in El Valle of Aburrá. That is why we want to greet the mayor of the municipality of Envigado, Braulio Espinosa. He is going to speak about Envigado and what is being done to make Envigado a smart city. It's a very special forum of the metropolitan area. I want to thank the invitation to be here present. We are going to start now. The municipality of Envigado has invested a lot in trying to become a smart city, but we wanted to change the dynamics for this intervention, and we wanted to show everybody that is participating in this very important forum the reality of the planet, the reality of our department and the metropolitan area. And based on an initial statement, we want to start backwards with the first question. What do cities do to not be smart? But we are going to start backwards to try to understand how we can become smarter. Cities today, when you analyze the educational system of the different municipalities, the economic development offices, how are we attending the citizens from the companies, how are the roads developed, how is the infrastructure developed, we can conclude that most of the cities are in the line of being cities that are not smart. And for this context, and so that we can have arguments with some examples, how can we work skillfully in that wrong theory, because we have to work in really being smart cities. Every day, new programs are created from public education that really do not help the economy, or their efforts are directed towards the population that is more vulnerable in the country. And we take this even farther away from becoming smart. For example, the change that we had in high schools, it did not improve the jobs for the people. They have to go more hand in hand with more projection in the colleges. It's to have job opportunities that has nothing to do with smart cities. So we have to change the education system in Colombia. We don't have different careers that would be very fruitful in innovation, digital, and technology, some technical areas that really do not have the backup that we need. The absence of technology inside the educational institutions, what we define as investment in technology is a tablet or a computer, but the research group, there is no support for technology tools so that with their creativity, the students can develop from Envigado or from any other municipality, they could be traded in the world. So we are not using the talent of our children and young people. The use of technological tools that do not speak with the city, that want to be smart. So for somebody that is in a small store, for somebody that drives a bus or did not have the possibility to study, to be able to pay their taxes throughout a platform is very difficult. That's why there are still people going physically to the offices to pay the bills. So this won't benefit everybody in technology. People from universities or advanced level were the only ones that could leverage on this kind of platforms and this kind of digital transformation. So we have to do many digital work. The state is late for everything, and that is a reality, and we have to put that on the table. Generally, when the state arrives to an orange district, they arrive late. The privates have done their effort, they have done their initiatives, they did the investment, and what the state has finally is just they say, let's create an orange district when it has already been created by a private sector without the public sector. So we have to really try to be smarter. The creation of public works like roads, hospitals, education, schools for art, culture, sports, recreation that has nothing to do with a smart city is far away from the renewable energies, the use of rainwater is far away from everything that we have to talk to the environment. And that is not smart. That is what all the municipalities of of the country are doing. Some are trying to be smarter and try to push forward. Now, what are we doing from Envigado to say that our money of Envigado will end up invested in the wrong city? We want to create bilingual public schools because languages today is a barrier. If you have an engineering systems, for example, a systems engineer that doesn't speak English, it's a huge barrier. If you finish high school, you should be able to speak at least two languages. And sometimes that is only possible in the private sector. We have two schools planned that are public schools and that they are going to be bilingual in the future. So you can have a kid in a public school that will learn another language because this is a global problem because the world is broad and people speak to China, to Brazil, and the friends that you have are not only those that are on the block. There are no limits in technology, but sometimes the limit is the language. And for Envigado, we have been advancing in this. The school needs backup for creativity, innovation, and development of the young. The school El Comercial, because some young people from high school, a research group, created the first robotic legs anti-landmines. So we are not speaking about big companies, but creation in the classroom with the support of the municipality of Envigado, real solutions for real problems.
Also in Bogotá, we have the Center of Innovation and Development. The Korean government supported 5 centers in Colombia. There's 3 in Medellin, in the metropolitan area, 1 in Envigado, the one that works the best. We have is digital high school approved by the government of Antioquia. It was created 100% in Envigado, and we're going to offer it from Envigado. It's going to be free to other the departments of Colombia. So many kids who their parents haven't been able to graduate from high school can finish their high school through a digital platform, totally free, created and innovated from Envigado, and that we're going to offer to the national territory. It is very important for Envigado to add in education. Let's not talk about the intelligent city, because we cannot talk about a intelligent city if we don't bet upon education. Technology for pedestrians at a street light. If if the citizen, if the pedestrian walks crosses the street on a not approved place, well, there's no culture. So it's worthless to have a completely technified city if the citizen is going through a different path in terms of culture, respect, art, tradition, and the roots of of a municipality. Intelligent city is not only technology; it means citizens of the world, for the world, with respect for the others, using the tools in an adequate manner. So that's why we've advanced through virtual education through a technological career from the University of Envigado. We are in that process. We're also working on market and digital marketing. When I became major, the CFI was not offering any last generation technology or education. We had other techniques that were valuable for the market, but don't increase the gross GDP of the country. So that's why this institute, CEFI, has technology of last generation that we didn't have before. And the Deborah Arango School of Arts is also offering the cultural process virtually, digitally, allowing to generate aggregated value to Envigado and the world. Something important to add in governance that will support the initiative of the Chamber of Commerce called Ruta Sur, and 40% of the companies of science, technology, and are all located in the southern part of the metropolitan area, and 48% of these companies are in Envigado. So that's where we are going to strengthen the node to create a south route of innovation, allowing to open a window not only to South America but to the world. Strengthening the cultural sector, we created the Secretary of Culture in order to strengthen the change in the paradigm of social citizen responsibility in the cities of the world. Implementation of digital platforms for everyone, for the housewife, for the watchman, platforms that can be used by anyone, even people who haven't gotten their high school degree or university degree, to create incentives to create 4.0 processes and highly value the technology value activities in the area. We want to go have a really intelligent city in Envigado. So we need to work hand in hand with the government and with the private sector. And finally, well, we need to add intelligent environments with design and construction of sustainable infrastructure using, reusing rainwater, bioclimatic buildings that from the time the citizen comes in through a platform, they will be able to know where they're going, the services that are delivered in this building. And this is what we're going to build the most modern municipal building with the support of the metropolitan area. And I'll also like to tell you that we are using or we're designing the education infrastructure master plan that has the vision of an intelligent city, modernizing the installations that are going to be amicable with the environment, with top of the line technology, not only teaching technology, but also having teaching the citizens to be to respect their surroundings, their city, their biodiversity. We are going to we're going to be the first municipality to change the public light system with using LED lights, and also video surveillance that are going to be mobile. This is part of what we want and what we are want to make Envigado an intelligent city. So that's what we're working upon. So the time is so limited. I just wanted to share with you this analysis of Envigado. Let's not continue being non-intelligent cities. Let's bet upon intelligent cities, both humanly and technologically. Thank you for sharing everything that you're doing in your city to advance as an intelligent territory. Thank you, Major, for your participation. Juan Camilo, he was sharing with us what cities do in order not to be intelligent. And he asked himself how you can work from this point on in order to advance. So we have comments from people that say that it is important what the major was saying in terms of culture and education. That's that we have to have this as a priority. And he also says everything he's sharing with us, everything he's doing with the centers of culture and innovation that have the support of the Korean government and that want to place the citizen at the center. What we've said during these 4 days, during these 4 days of this forum, identify the breaches and make intelligent cities. Others, something important to highlight from Mr. Brailo Espinoso, education focused to uh, stop or decrease the gaps, not having citizens in only for the young youth. No, we need to approach all ages, and it's important to highlight three important aspects where Envigado is becoming sustainable and intelligent. First, education, opening the borderlines of education not only to the youth, but and making it free, but giving them possibilities in other countries by creating bilingual educational institutions. This case, it will be English that's going to be taught, and also digital platforms for citizen attention, focused on governance and different. We've seen these in other cities, in other metropolitan areas, which are infrastructures that are sustainable, public street lights, intelligent buildings, and other possibilities that create um, growth of these intelligent cities in the metropolitan area of the Valley of Aburrá. We've also had experiences from Brazil, Barcelona, Japan. We've seen how these territories use these possibilities to move forward as intelligent territories. That is, Juan Camilo, why it is important to make a balance of what has happened during these 4 days. Of course, that is why we have here today the director of the metropolitan area, Juan David Palacio Cardona. He's going to make a summary, and we also have Juan Sebastián González, Secretary of Digital Innovation from the Mayor of Medellin. They are going to have a conversation. They are going to make a balance of what has happened during these 4 days. So you're both welcome. Juan Camilo, Linda, we know that there are people from different parts of the world watching us. So today, the 4th day of the first Metropolitan Forum of Intelligent Cities, it's important to talk with Sebastián. He's the Secretary of Development, and science and technology and innovation. So Medellin is the city, this is the nucleus of this metropolitan area, seeking to be more competitive. And this is a space that we want to share, but we also want to learn from the 20 guests that shared with us things that intelligent territory must have, a intelligent city must be. So, what is the vision that Medellin has to become, or what is the aspiration of Medellin to become an intelligent city? Well, thanks, Juan David, for the invitation. Warmth, welcome to all of those watching us anywhere in the world. It's great to be in the closure of this important Intelligent Cities Forum. So, for me, what is an intelligent city, Juan David? Well, Sebastian, why don't you share your experience professionally? Uh, what is your experience in order to, well, share that you can talk about smart cities? I'm Sebastian Gonzalez. I'm the Secretary of Digital Innovation of the Secretary of Medellin. I'm a systems engineer. I specialized in Turin, Italy, at the Politecnico of Torino in informatics, and I lived for 13 years in Europe, Italy, and Ireland, living the experience of smart cities. I am a technician. I've worked many years in the development of softwares, in connectivity, Internet of Things. And thanks to that experience, I had the opportunity to come to Medellin and to work in this secretary. So I lived 13 years in Europe and I came back because I am passionate and I love our city. So bringing all this knowledge that I've learned in these large cities of Europe and implement these strategies, imagine. So, knowing this, well, I want to share with you what I think it's an intelligent city. Why are we talking about this broad concept, which is hard to understand because people associate it with filling the cities with technologies, cameras, computers. And it's something that we discussed in the metropolitan area. Intelligent means what? It could be all or nothing. Yes, the concept of smart city. Well, the concept, when I talk about a topic, I would like to mention what is the need, the problem we're solving with smart city. Well, Juan David, 80% of the human population lives in cities, in urban areas. This is a huge challenge because the geographical area of urban cities just 2% of the world, and 2% generates 80% of CO2 emissions worldwide. So this is a huge challenge for the cities. So we expect that in 2015 we will have 90% of the population will be in the cities. These are great challenges, not only in the environment, but in mobility. Just imagine these small cities with huge traffic, security, education. We saw that with the pandemic, education had changed considerably, and it tends to be a hybrid model because we won't have enough spaces in the cities for all students. So it tends to become a hybrid model with virtual education and physical education where students will go to schools. Well, Sebastian, we could say that smart cities it's not just technology, okay? Smart cities is not just technology, it's a first element, which is planification. Planification of the territory in the correct manner, considering the environment, the increase in the population, and facing the climate change. These are elements that need to be involved in the construction of a smart city to then go and see, okay, we have an issue and how we're going to solve this issue. Right. So our final objective is to improve the quality of life of people. That is the final objective, independently if it's using technology or not. Many times the support can be technological because the technology, now we would talk about the fourth revolution, technology, big data, blockchain. Well, using technology will help us a lot, especially to understand the causes of the problems. Because, yes, we want to improve the quality of life of people, but many times in the cities, we don't know what is the need, the problem, and the causes of these problems. So, what are we doing in Medellin? Well, we want to understand the real needs of the territory because all cities in the world have mobility challenges, but in Medellin per se, in the metropolitan area, which are ours, which are the problems that avoid these needs to be fulfilled. So how? With collaboration. That's why from the major, we're working with the universities, with some co-creation committees where we tend for the needs of the citizens. They are the ones who are living those needs or these problems. Understanding this is a huge challenge, Juan David. We need co creation, but we need data and information to allow us to understand the causes of the problems. Sebastian, I give you a very straightforward example. Smart cities is it's maybe it's synonymous of a synonym of technology, but it could also be a bicycle route. Just think about creating a better mobility. An example in our metropolitan area, 2006, 650,000 cars. We didn't have mobility cars. Everybody was happy, minimal contamination levels. 2021, over 1,700,000 cars, and we cannot build more roads. There's no way. So we have to see, okay, the technology will to build and acquire data in order to find answers and solutions, right? Yes, the objective of improving the quality of life of citizens has two main concepts, Juan David. Social inclusion, we're going to improve the quality of life of the inhabitants of the territory, which are not just the citizens, but also the animals. Social inclusion, independently of the political affiliation, the economical situation. We need to improve the quality of life of everyone and the sustainability to satisfy the needs of the citizens without sacrificing the natural resources of the citizens of tomorrow. So, Juan David, when we talk about Marcel, we talk about inclusion, sustainability, of being respectful with the environment. We talk about including animals, improving their quality of life. Nice, Susana.
Yes, so you can tell what you're doing from Medellin, where you're going to register all the pets, mostly dogs and cats. They're going to be registered as being just like part of the family to improve the quality of life with basic solutions. Yes. So from the mayor's office, we are creating a platform. We're going to be launch it in 1 or 2 weeks, where we are going to characterize all and have the features of all the animals in the territory, because we need data and information to understand the needs of those animals. And it happened with Medellin Me Cuida. Medellin takes care of me. It was a program that was like an app to gather information, to understand the needs of the people who were vulnerable. So that concept is fundamental, Juan David, is to have data and information to understand the causes and focus better the programs of the mayor's office, public policies, etc. Very recently, we did an experiment with artificial intelligence and early alert about pregnancy in the youth, etc. So in this way, in pregnancy youth, we identified some causes when there is like delay of education in one of both parents that increases the possibility of youth pregnancy. If you are coexisting and you live in the rural area, that will increase the possibility of a teenage pregnancy. So we have to understand the causes to be able to solve the problems. So today it is easy to gather information with web pages, social networks, surveys, etc. Medellin has that capacity to gather information, to build that data. But how are you doing to do reading, a real reading of that information? Because it's very robust information. What advances is Medellin thinking about having machine learning to be able to read all the information and generate diagnosis on time? Because we can have a lot of information, because if the information is not analyzed, then nothing is done. Yes, there are several strategies, Juan David. When we gather data, we have some privacy and safety policies to respect the privacy of the citizens. And it was one of the recommendations. I think it was Malaysia that says that technology has to respect human rights, and that is that information to have that protection to all the data. I don't know if you read the tweet of the mayor that Medellin Me Cuida's information of COVID will be eliminated in December if the pandemic improves. So we really respect privacy, the terms and conditions, because we understand that the citizens are concerned because of privacy. And we only work with what we have. So to answer your question, we gather data, we cross the information with the different databases, with CISBEN, with databases of social inclusion, to understand 360 degrees the citizen. What problems are there in his family? What offers do you have to avoid the early alerts? So let's say a child has low grades at school. Understand why the grades are so slow, because in that family somebody lost their job. So try to do it predictively and try to focus the programs better, because we cannot apply the same program and the same strategy for everybody the same way. It depends on the context of each family to apply the strategies. But we have to do analysis to the detail, to the person, to the family, or have a matrix to do some predictions facing scenarios. Let's say if you live in these conditions, if you have these possibilities, you are going to have these problems. Or are they matrices that are very general to generate diagnosis, and then have a public policy for each one of the scenarios? We work with added data, because it's very difficult that a problem will only be had uh, by one family. So we work with different problems in groups. For example, teenage pregnancy. We understood the causes. Now we are going to work on those causes to try to avoid them and have action plans to those families or those couples to avoid the teenage pregnancy, work in pedagogy about pregnancy, etc. So we have to focalize the strategy, but the analysis and artificial intelligence works with macro data. Okay, so what is Medellin doing to guarantee more connectivity? Because it's around 34%, if the numbers don't fail, is the lack of connectivity. When we speak about smart cities, we have to speak about three layers. First, the infrastructure layer, that was what you were mentioning, connectivity. We speak about the information layer because without connectivity, we cannot have information, and the layer to service to the citizen. In infrastructure, what are we doing? We are in the public innovative laboratory. We do challenges of innovations with the citizens. We are doing some pilots and in some phase and infrastructure and development with some infrastructure of neutral networks. So we want to take all the optic fiber to all of the socioeconomic strata. So what is this neutral network? Imagine an airport. An airline does not have its own airport. The airport belongs to the state and it rents it to the different airlines. If you would ask an airline, no, you have to build your own infrastructure. They could not reach many countries, many cities in the country. The same thing happens with connectivity, with internet. To the operators, it is very expensive to build their own infrastructure because the costs would be very high and the citizens cannot pay for them. So we are going to build that infrastructure, that airport, so that they can rent it and give the service to the final citizen. Yes, the state is working in an on-time way and trying to be included. The operators are generating profitability. It's a reality of economy worldwide. You also think about social responsibility, but that is also limited. What happens in the most vulnerable sectors? They are going to have more difficulty paying a fixed fee of connectivity. That's when the state comes in. There's difficulty. Let's build a neutral network and let's see how they say it is not profitable to build the network. So basically, that's the idea. Yes, and that's the importance of co-creation because it cannot be only responsibility of the state or the private or the citizens. When we do the co-creation among these three, and we are going to see better with the Council of Technology and Innovation, where we are going to have the presence of the university, the state, the public. We are going to achieve more solutions. When the state and the private companies get together, they can solve a lot of problems. The state cannot solve it by themselves. The private cannot resolve it by themselves, but together we can. So we are working together and we are working in this pilot phase, and that is the trend worldwide. We have an operator that is speaking about implementing 20 million houses in neutral network. There are operators, I'm not going to mention who, but there are operators that are working on it. So the infrastructure allows us to have more connection, to have digital connection. And here we can have information, and with that information, we can understand the problems, the needs, and be able to solve those problems. And with connectivity, we can improve the quality of life of the citizens. If you have connectivity, you have a possibility to work, to get educated, to generate your own company. So now, Sebastian, let's speak about the software valley. What is the strategy of Medellin? Because we have spoken about many things, that what represents a smart city, of some specific project, the data analytics, the building of public policies, but how can all this be translated in the Valley of Software? I had the experience, Juan David, of living in Ireland, in Dublin, 8 years. And I had a similar experience of what we want to implement in Medellin. Ireland used to be a country rescued by the European Union and now it's the fastest growing economy right now, because they used to have a traditional economy. It was not only an agricultural country, but they had to go to the service economy. So it was cheaper to import from wherever than from Ireland. So they had to get reinvented. And the multinational companies, Oracle, Facebook, Google, to implement their strategies, their products, their services, and that created a very interesting network effect. And they arrived, all the talents arrived from Europe. They have the English language as native language. So that is what we want in Medellin, to go from a traditional economy to an economy based on knowledge, based on information, knowledge, technologies of fourth revolution. We want to be the new industrial capital of Colombia, but not like we were before, only textiles, but in fourth revolution technologies. How are we going to achieve that? We have to work in the educational component. And we have the city of Occidente that we are working with the Secretariat of Education to have available talent in 4 to 6 months, to have people that really know about these fourth revolution technologies, because a company of technology needs an accountant, he needs a communicator, somebody that works in marketing, among other professions, and that is in education and in employability and entrepreneurship to the territory.
We're going to create 21 centers of the Software Valley, one for per each neighborhood, and this is going to, well, sometimes you like Ruta N. People from the different neighborhoods must sometimes believe this is too far away, or there's too much protocol to, well, not meaning this is bad, but saying that it's hard for the citizen to get there. So we want to bring these sites to the citizen. So if you have an idea, an entrepreneur, or you already have a company, you want to make it grow, you well, if you want to be interested in technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, you can learn there. You can learn programming. We started programming classes at Byton last week. This is for the citizens, for everyone, independently of their age. They ask me, well, so the elderly can go there? Yes, the elderly have a very important role because they have lived the problems, the needs of the city. So if an elder talks with a young person that has an idea, they can start entrepreneurship. We had young people who have started sharing their ideas, and that's how we start creating the Valley of Software. So industry based on the knowledge of science, technology, and innovation, creating wealth. So we want the strong, the cool guy from the neighborhood, not the one who does something bad. No, we want them to be the cool person is the one who brings projects, who develops software, who has a car, has a house, has a farm, because they are exporting knowledge. And you don't need a robust infrastructure or not or great spaces to develop software from home. You don't have to be in the company that sends the or uses the software in another continent, but virtually answering and creating economy for the territory. Yes, I'm here, Juan David, thanks to software. I could study in Europe thanks to software. I come from a humble family, but with my first job, I purchased my laptop and I started programming. I saw that it was a great opportunity. So when I left to Italy, all my peers were working informally at restaurants, and I started earning money with a software development company. So this is an industry that's really powerful. These are well paid jobs. And in the next few years, we will have around 20 new roles that are non existent right now. So it's important to start working. The value of software is nothing free. This is the worldwide trend. That's why we want to generate wealth. A developer with 3 4 years of experience can earn 10 12 billion Colombian pesos. So the message is the youth should approach the centers of the value of software, and there we'll have a teaching offer, a learning offer. So, okay, to make a summary to draw conclusions, one of the main goals of the major Daniel Quintero is to deliver at least 100,000 computers, one computer per student. This is a bet that's related to what you describe, having the opportunity to have a computer that nowadays is the socioeconomical reality of our territory, of the world. Well, certain people don't have computers, so from the public, from the institution, it's nice to deliver these computers. Well, the solution, when we talk about the strategy of the value of software, is we work from connectivity to bring good quality internet. I don't know if you saw our pilot that we have in Medellin, using the spectrum of TV to bring internet, because some operators don't go to these rural areas. So we have 300,000 computers that are going, 300,000 computers. So we bring internet, computers, and a center of the value of software with offers of the fourth revolution, Ruta N in the neighborhood, and then offering employment, making a match between the talents we are creating and the companies that require these talents. So Rodrigo is connected. Sebastian, let me introduce you to Rodrigo. He's a great ally of the Valle of Aburrá. He is from ICLAID in Brazil, which is the largest sustainability network in the world. He has a headquarters in Bonn, Germany. And
Gracias, Juan David.
thank you, Juan David. It's a pleasure to be part of this first forum of Metropolitan Forum of Smart Cities. Well, say hi to Sebastian, and it's important to know about this project, the value of software, which I believe it's a very adequate project, which brings equilibrium, equity to the metropolitan area of Medellin, and to think about generating convergences between these strategies of technological development and the policies to create innovation and sustainable development. So the government asked us to make analytical sharing the information we have, and the conclusion is that the strategies to incentivize these in the cities are parallel to sustainable development. So ICLAI has looked at different points of the international discussions of what happened today in the fourth day of the forum, the importance of having or considering information system based on science and a dynamic of data production, of introduction that's robust, consistent. Second, to provide transparency, to allow the citizens to have access to the information. for this information to be systematized and organized, and to create or incentivize a permanent dialogue with the citizens in order to promote qualified citizenship participation. And this is related with ethics. And like Juan Sebastian just talked about, the care Medellin has in the policy of information, personal information, and aligned with local policies with the global frameworks of sustainability, the objectives, the climate agenda, biodiversity agenda. And something that you also mentioned, the mayor of Envigado talked about the perspective of education, of culture, of identity as intelligence factors for smart cities. So we have a program called ICLEI Innovation that has the objective of promoting the development of systems, softwares applied to real solutions of very specific problems related to the sustainable development of the cities, and the use of biodiversity, of the green areas, local green areas, the environment. We going through the acceleration process. We had some companies that went through this process, and today we have two solutions, one in Sorocaba, Brazil, another one in João Pessoa in Brazil. We are showing that this can work out, and because the cities are very happy, and we see that Medellin and Envigado are going to be our associates in this call to promote these smart cities, and to invite you all in October to the meeting with the UN, and to try to illuminate the local experiences. And ICLEI is going to be the mentor, the tool to provide visibility to these policies. So I want to congratulate you all, reaffirm the alliance with ICLEI, with the Valley of Software. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rodrigo, for being with us today. And this way, we will also like to uh, drawing some conclusions. I would like to thank all the majors that were with us in this first Metropolitan Forum of Smart Cities, and to our guests, international guests, that allow us to acquire knowledge. 20 countries, 5 continents, almost 6,000 that were subscribed, people, around 7,000 connected. This is a good result, a first exercise
that will allow us to get knowledge to improve the lives of the city, of the lives of the citizens, and plan a territory, what it should really look like to advance towards a transformation that has to be sustainable from the environmental, social, economically. And it would be very good that we are the planners, we are the governors. We could achieve a valley of Aburrá that is based on science, technology, information. A valley of Aburrá that is a valley of software, because we can transform society, we can transform the country. I want to thank the people that are connected, the subdirector, the people from Telemedellin, Linda, Juan Camilo, for being with us. As director, as a person, I want to conclude. I am ready to build and not to divide. Happy day and happy night. Thank you so much for the accompaniment for these days of event, and to the Secretariat of Innovation from the city of Medellin. Thank you so much for your presence. And we want to continue being inclusive and innovative city. We want to thank all the people that are connected right now throughout these all 4 days. And to obtain the certificate, you can have an email with a link that you can obtain this certificate. Or also, you can go to our webpage, www.metropol.gov.co. It's important to consider that the link is going to arrive after Monday. Now we already are going to have a perception survey so that you can give us feedback. Thank you to the Metropolitan area, Juan David Palacio Cardona, to the Subdirector Andrés Felipe Álvarez Grajales, the Subdirector Pablo Marcelo Maturana. Thank you to Telemedellin for being our host, and thank you to all of those that helped us in this first Metropolitan Forum of Smart Cities. We invite you that you are very keep up updated. It was a pleasure to share with you this panel, and thank you to everybody that was connected from all around the world. Thank you so much.